Welcome to this video about my 1982 Volvo 245 GLT estate. Now, first things first, normally I would probably have washed this car before making a public video of it, but actually I thought I would let it live its truth, which is that it is a working car. It goes down the tip, it carries stuff, it goes to IKEA, it gets bookshelves and that sort of thing, and occasionally I might give it a wash, but at the moment it hasn't had one for a long time, so it's looking a little bit sorry for itself and faded on the black trim in particular, quite a lot of brake dust on the wheels, and even a little bit of moss on the rear doors. How nice. But you know what? It's tough. It's how this car lives. It's a Volvo 240 and they're not designed, as far as I'm concerned, to be prettified and just sit there looking nice. So this one works for its living. So this car is a 1982 model year car, meaning that it is a flat front model or a flat hood model, and they're quite sought after. They were only for 1981 and 1982 model years. The 1983, 84 onwards had a really large kind of coffin nose, they call those, and then it was facelifted again in I think 1986 for its sort of final front look. But this is the most sought after post 81 facelift flat front, so I'm really pleased I have it. 1982 is significant for another thing, which is that it's the first year that the GLT trim became available in the estate. There was a GLT in 1981 as a saloon, the 244 GLT, and in 1980 I think it was sort of a special edition. There are some 1980 models that are GLT, but I haven't really seen one properly. But this is, as far as I know, the earliest GLT Volvo 240 estate in the UK. You can see that it isn't actually badged a 245, it's simply badged a Volvo GLT. And that's correct. That's how they first came out in 81 and 82. They lost their usual nomenclature and were simply GLT on the back, although actually on the V5 it's still a 245 GLT. What does GLT mean? Well, it means that it's, I suppose it stands for Grand Lux Tourer or something like that, but essentially it means it's sporty. It's Volvo's version of a sporty car for the time, and that means sort of slightly lowered suspension, I think, and a few other bits and pieces, the main thing being the engine, which is a 2.3 litre fuel injected engine with a Bosch mechanical fuel injection, which for 1982 was really pretty advanced in a standard car. I should say at this stage that these wheels are not the correct wheels for this car. These are the Virgo wheels, which are correct for saloons of GLT from 1982, and were certainly correct for estates that were much later. But for 1982, the correct wheels for the estate should be the GT wheels, and I've got some over here. So here we go, I've got 5 GT wheels here, and you can see what they look like. They're, I think, an inch smaller than the wheels on the car. I think these are 14 inch, the Virgos are 15, but they're the same overall diameter of tyre, but they're of wheel with the tyre, because they've got a bigger tyre wall. There should be a V badge in the middle. There is one on one of them somewhere. They just about see the bottom. I do have the caps, but they're inside. I don't particularly like them on the car. I'm usually a massive stickler for originality, but when I put them on the car, it ends up looking a bit like it's gone around a banger racing track. I'm not too keen, and also the Virgos, because they are slightly deep dished, they go in a bit, they give it just that great sense of purpose and a great sense of strength that the GT wheels just don't quite do. The Virgos were what was on the car when I bought it, and I've only recently got the set of GT wheels. My plan with them is to probably put some winter tyres on them and then put them on the car for the winter, because I like to have the correct things on cars, as you know, but this is one thing that I'm not quite ready to let go of, these very nice Virgo alloy wheels. As you can see from this little walk around of the outside of the car, the paintwork is really suffering after 36 years of use. There's a bit there that's been patched up with some filler and painted over, and the paint doesn't quite match. Loads of lacquer peel there, loads of lacquer peel on the tops of the doors in particular. This one looks the worst of the lot, I think. The back black paint is fading on there. It should have been a sticker along there, but somebody painted it by hand at some point in its life, so yeah. The bonnet was also really badly lacquer peeled and just looked horrendous, so I have had that resprayed professionally, and it's a really gorgeous standard, and I'd like the rest of the car to match that, to be honest. But at the moment I sort of think it's still a working car. I never want it to be concours. It's a Volvo 240 estate at the end of the day, and they're designed to be used, and I like that it's got its original patina, I suppose, and showing its history and battle scars. In terms of repairs that have been done to it, this wheel arch has been replaced on this side, and again the paint match that I've had isn't great because I did that myself, the paint. The rear, what we call the spare wheel wells, although only one of them is actually holds the spare wheel, were completely holed. Great big massive daylight holes through them, but they've been welded up, not prettily, but I didn't feel like I wanted to spend that much money on something that was actually non-structural and didn't actually matter particularly, but I wanted the car to be at least watertight. So let's open the boot to start with, because frankly that's what the Volvo 240 estate is all about. I think it's had a new tailgate at some point in its life, because this tailgate is in much better condition than most Volvo 240 tailgates, and the badges when I first got it were in the wrong place. They were higher up. You can just perhaps see the mark where it was, but it was wrong, so I've taken them off and I put them where they should be. There's a tiny rust blister starting just there, but that's the worst of it on this tailgate. I've seen much younger cars that have great big gaping holes along there, and in particular in the bottom here where the rubber sits in its channel, the channel just disintegrates, and it's all very horrendous, so I'm sure this is a replacement. The inside of the boot has got the earlier style 240 boot floor, which has got all the metal edging, which I really like. Oh, that side panel, I do have it, but because this side window leaks somehow, somewhere, it gets completely covered in water and sodden, and then it grows mould, and then I have to take it out of the car and clean it, and then it lives in my airing cupboard at the moment, drying out. Under the boot floor you've got a storage area just there, full of rubbish and junk and useful things. It takes a big slam to get it down, I won't do that. In here, behind this very rattly plastic panel is, there we go, the spare wheel and a spare fuel can, which has got some fuel in it just in case. This one is also a little cubby hole. There you go. Oh, and you can see that's the repair that's been done to the spare wheel well on that side of that. As I say, technically that's not a spare wheel well. Right, let's have a look in the back. Get that open. And the back seats are okay. The back itself is in good nick. The squab has got a couple of tears in it, but such is life with these sorts of things. It's lovely in leather and beige in here. It originally had black floor mats when I got it, but I found a set of beige ones which I think give it the correct sort of feel that it should have. And here's the lovely sound the doors make on a 240. Oh yes, hewn from a brick. Front. As I do apologise for the condition of it. It is a working car. I think I've been taking things to the tip quite a lot, so there's a lot of dust and dirt and things. But here are the two front seats. The driver's seat has recently been replaced. A friend of mine gave one to me, which was in much better condition than mine, which was really torn. The bottom was torn in quite a few places, and there was a great big slit down there, so this is a much better seat. Still not perfect, but it's a million times better than what was here before. Now you'll see it's a automatic. Now it's actually a 3-speed automatic. I think it's called a Borg Warner 55, but don't quote me on that. So it's got, yes, speed to get going, a speed to accelerate, and a speed to cruise. And frankly, it is all you need. So we've got 139,000 miles it's done. I fitted an ambient temperature gauge as the only extra because I think it was pretty cool. Normally there's a blanking plate here and it doesn't look that nice, and I was given a temperature gauge by somebody I knew whose mother had one of these cars, so I fitted it. We've got down here back a Volvo radio, and it does have FM and it does work amazingly quite well. The glove box is illuminated, but it tends to be at its own accord as to whether it actually illuminates or not. And we have a cup holder and a really cool flip up mirror for the passenger. This is a early 1980s car. It's still exceptionally sexist. Oh, there we go, the light came on. Hey. Down here we have ashtray, which I use as a rubbish tip at the minute. We have in here a centre console, which is quite badly cracked in parts. The beige plastic is really brittle. The black ones tend to last a bit longer and be a bit more rugged, but the beige ones aren't. Amazingly, having said that, my door pockets on both sides are completely intact, and they're one of the first things to smash in the interior of a 240, because you tend to bash it with your foot as you exit the car, and too hard a bash one day will usually end up smashing it, but these ones are perfectly intact, which is really rather good. Just a little word about the sunroof. It does have one. It's I don't know whether you can see that, but it's backwards there, but it's a Royal Dalton sunroof, would you believe. I'm not going to operate it because I have taped it shut, because it leaks terribly. Even with the tape, it still manages to leak. I'm not quite sure how that happens, but sometimes you get a drip down the back of your neck as you're driving along, which is really not fun. Maybe one day I'll replace it with one that doesn't actually leak, but not high on my priority list. Just a couple of the features that make this car a GLT in terms of its trim level. One thing is central locking. Actually, I think all 1982 cars came with central locking. Works on all 5 doors. And also, which I really like, and it does work, are these just there, which are the adjusters for the electric door mirrors. Would you believe? On 1982. So let's have a look under the bonnet, and to do that you pull this lever, which I think has done it, and you go round. Yeah, and there's a little handle there. And there is the engine in all its glory. As I say, this is a 2.3 litre version of the Volvo Red Block engine. It does 136 horsepower, which for a 1982 car is really quite quick. And it is actually quite a quick car. Certainly from 0 to 40 or so, it's actually really very rapid and much quicker than some other cars I've driven, including modern cars. But the problem comes when you're then trying to accelerate down a slip road. It tends to lose a bit of steam, especially because the gearbox loves to change up, so it just wants to go to third as quickly as it can, and as soon as you're in top gear, then you've lost that acceleration that second gives you. So you have to kind of really floor it to force it not to go up to third gear to get some decent speed down a motorway slip road. Features of the bonnet of a 240 is this, which is the switch, which, oh no, has decided, oh there we go. It works on a Mercury little float, so it's on when the bonnet's up but goes off. I don't know whether we'll actually be able to see it on the video. There you go, it goes off when the bonnet is down. How cool is that? I love it, it's my best feature.